All right, so let's get started. So we're going to start lying on the block with the block under the sacrum. So making your way over to your mat, down to your mat, wherever it is. Onto the floor. And as always, taking your time, no need to rush. Taking a few moments here on the floor, just letting things settle, a couple deep breaths. And then we'll get that sacrum on the block, lifting up, block under the sacrum. Take a moment, letting that weight settle on the block, and then sliding the legs out. So every simple transition from one pose to the other, just like moving into this, can be its own little vinyasa with its own little parts. Like here we have the soles of the feet on the floor, the little scoop of the tailbone to put the block under, that's settling the pelvis on the block, and then sliding the legs out. And you can press on the block near the waist for a little extra traction. And breathing here. Just feeling your body. Noticing if anything in particular seems to be going on or not going on today. And then if you're not there already, getting those legs more organized, bringing them into parallel, hip distance apart, that's like 2 or 3 inches, 3 or 4 centimeters, and then, or else right together, and then a little bit more active reach through the heels, a little bit more pull up through the abdominal muscles, like you're trying to pull the hip bones towards your head. Gently cooperating with the block, bringing the arms alongside, roll the upper arms out a little bit. Gentle press down from those outer upper arms all the way along to the little finger. And then really feeling that inhale, traveling all the way up to that lower belly on the block. And exhale, pouring out. Let's take a stretch overhead with the arms. Big inhale and exhale, reaching through the fingertips, pressing those arms back down, engaging a little bit more strongly through the center. We'll do that 3 more times. Inhaling those arms up overhead. Exhale, reaching down, pressing down. Twice more. Or you can take a full breath up and a full breath down, whatever is working for you, moving very deliberately and mindfully with the breath. And then finishing with the arms back alongside, take another breath or 2. And then let's bend the knees, lifting up off the block, taking the block out, rolling down vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the floor. And let's come up in the bridge pose. So hip distance apart, feet bridge pose, tucking that tailbone up, Peeling up off the floor, you can interlock the fingers underneath if you want. Maybe a little bend in the elbows. You can also bring those hands up onto the sacrum for a little extra encouragement. Breathing here. Reaching straight forward through the knees, straight forward through the shins. And then rolling down vertebrae by vertebrae, landing on the floor. And we'll walk the feet out to the edge of the mat. And we'll come up in that wide bridge pose, watching that the knees don't fall into each other. So the knees are still going to go straight forward over the feet. So you'll need to do a little bit of a pressing out on those outer thighs. As we come up, pressing the feet into the floor, scooping that tailbone up. Once again, you could interlock the fingers. And then feel a little pressing to the side with the outer knee, the outer thigh. Reaching those knees straight forward over the toes. Feel like there's even a little press forward with the shin. And breathing here. One more deep breath. And then rolling down vertebrae by vertebrae. All right, walking the feet back into hip distance apart, or you could bring the legs and knees, the feet and knees right together, which is especially challenging, or the hip distance apart. One more bridge pose. All right, let's scoop that tailbone up, and now feeling that contrast, those parallel lines, and it's usually a little bit more difficult to lift very high. The closer the legs get together, most difficult with those thighs and knees squeezing into each other. And if you are doing that, especially narrow squeeze in, just be patient with your body. It goes where it can go. Couple more breaths. And rolling down, landing on the floor. And let's bring the arms out to the side, drop the knees over to the left, making a little twist to the right up through the spine and shoulders. And then rolling over to the right, making a twist to the left up through the torso and spine there. And coming back to the center. And then we will make our way up to sitting. And sitting in Sukhasana, the crossed legs. Yeah, so in that bridge pose, when we change the distance between the legs there, we change where exactly on the front of the thigh and more particularly in the hip flexor, the psoas, we're stretching, what part we're making lengthen out, which is why in general the wider is easier because it's out of the outer edge of the psoas, which has a lot more space to move. And the narrower you get, the more in toward the center. where the muscle gets a little denser and harder to stretch. All right, meanwhile, here we are, Sukhasana, lengthening up, maybe a little squinging. And slowly release with the arms, letting the hands rest on the knees, pouring off the tops of the shoulders. Inhale and exhale. Breathing into that long and spacious spine, balancing the effort and the ease. And then reaching out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips, breathing the arms up. Inhale and exhale up. And inhale and exhale down. Then we're going to do one arm into a side bend. So breathing just up through the right arm, up and over to the left. We'll hold the breath. And then a big inhale and exhale, bringing that right arm down and left arm up. Inhale and exhale, up and over, taking up lots of space, breath here. And then an inhale and exhale to bring you back to the center. Let's do that 2 more sets. And over, and deepen, and coming back up. Or you can be on your own timing as we come over. And deepen, and up, and one more set. And then both arms. Evening things out. And we will change the cross of the legs, coming forward and over, breathing into the back of the And then let's walk our hands over to the right diagonal. We're just going to stay on the long, low diagonal. And through the center, over to the left diagonal. And back to the center. And coming up, unfurling that spine vertebrae by vertebrae, landing back up on top of the sitting bones. Pause a moment here, letting all of that settle in your body. And then let's make our way to downward facing dog. Taking your time getting there. Well, I'm taking a lot of time getting there here. But, just gently expanding the backs of the legs. Coming down in child's pose again when needed. Well, let's all use the wide apart feet. That's always an option, but let's make that the default today. The feet a little extra wide. And you might have noticed if you've done these extra wide feet, it does make it a little easier to extend the hamstrings and lengthen the lower back here. But there's also a tendency for those heels to wing in toward each other. So you have to feel a little bit extra press out with the outer heel there. A little gentle press out with the sides of the legs to keep those legs very parallel. All right, and here we are. We're walking dogs, doing whatever you need or want to do. And then finishing up with whatever you're doing in the best downward facing dog you can do at this moment. Nothing moving but the breath. And then we will look between the hands to jump or step forward. And it can be hip distance apart here or maybe right together. As we concave back, lengthening out the front of the body. Maybe a little bit more lengthen and lift. You can put a little bend in the knees if you want to really get that spine to extend more. And then pouring back over into the forward bend. And let's step back with the left leg into the long low lunge, long through the top of the head, really pressing back through that left heel. And then tailbone down, coming up in Untitled, the kneeling lunge. Or you could keep your hands on the floor if you're not quite ready to come up yet. Bringing those arms down, and let's step forward. Into the concave back, folding over. Let's do that on the other side. Stepping back with the right legs. Now we're in the left lunge, the other lunge. Take a few breaths, lengthening through that right heel. And then pressing the tailbone down to bring the right knee down. Coming up in Untitled, or not coming up, and breathing here. And bring the arms down, stepping forward into the concave back, halfway up, folding over. And then we'll come up to standing, big front body dog. Lift a little bit more. Pressing those arms down long through the top of the head. Let's circle the shoulders. 3. Big, gooey, crunchy. Those are kind of opposite, but we can be gooey and crunchy circles. So let's do one more. And then going the other direction. And then front to the back, interlocking the fingers, rolling the shoulders out, lift the chest to lift the chin. Lift a little more, coming forward, pressing out through the hands. And release the hands. Concave back, halfway up, folding over. We'll jump or step back, go through whatever version of the vinyasa you want, and there will be a downward facing dog. And so whatever version you're doing, I'm going from kneeling plank myself. When you get to the upward facing dog part or the cobra part, lingering there, maybe a couple breaths. Feeling that block under the sacrum, lengthening out the front of the body. And then we'll all be back in downward facing dog. And let's lift the right leg up, reaching long through the heel, reaching a little longer. And through to the lunge. And let's turn to the elephant rider, pressing those knees out on the diagonal, feet on the diagonal. Maybe a little squinging in the hips. And let's come up to standing, all the way up into the three-pointed star, rotating those legs into the hip joints. Lift a little more, and then arms to parallel, feet to parallel. And here we obviously have a certain amount of pressing out with those outer legs. Pulling a little through the fingertips. And we'll rotate the right leg out 90 degrees. And going into the warrior two, inner thigh to inner knee over the foot. And then that outer left leg is still doing a little bit of a press back. So you have tension, the good kind of tension here as you pull wide and long in the lunge. One more breath. And then dancing warrior, bringing that right arm up. If you want to half binding the left arm, you can, or just have it be along the left leg. And windmilling back down to the lunge, stepping back to the plank, through the vinyasa, any version. And then downward facing dog. And we'll do that on the left, lifting the left leg up. Reaching long through the heel. And through to the lunge. Journey to the elephant rider. Pressing those knees out. Whatever little shifting you want to do. And then we will straighten up, rotating those thigh bones into the hip joints, three-pointed star. Lift a little more. And pressing the arms down, turning the feet to parallel. Take a moment standing here very actively. Expanding out from those outer thighs, reaching long through the fingertips. And then rotating the left leg out 90 degrees into the warrior two, inner thigh to inner knee over the foot. And that right outer thigh has a press back still. Pulling right, pulling left, and there we are, suspended in the center. And then dancing warrior, bringing that left arm up, have the right arm along the leg, maybe the half binding, breathing here. And windmilling down, stepping back to the plank and through the vinyasa or not. And there we all are in downward facing dog. And then let's step or jump halfway up the mat. Walk the feet out to the edges of the mat. So we have a wide and long forward bend. Walking your hands forward. Heels might lighten up, but really reach the heels back and take a couple breaths stretching out here. Sort of a place in between the wide leg forward bend, the usual forward bend Uttanasana and downward facing dog. And then we will bend the knees and sit down on the floor, sliding those legs straight out in front. And Konasana. So we're going to do the wide twists again. So I'm going to turn and face you so you can still stay facing the front of your mat. And I will be the mirror. So we are going to bend our right leg up. And then take that right foot out to what would be the wide stance there. Maybe about 10 to 12 inches, depending on, it's always relative to your own body size too, how far apart. All right, so here we are. We're standing on the left leg, reaching through the foot, standing on that right foot in the floor, long through the top of the head. We're going to twist to the right. Inhale and exhale, and don't let that right knee fall in towards you. Really press it into the hand and pull with that left hand, making it even more challenging for that right leg to stay where it is and not come in. And breathing. And coming back to the center, sliding the right leg out, bending the left. Finding that wide stance there. Standing on the right foot, standing on the left foot, long through the top of the head. We're going to try not to let that left knee fall in. A little pressing out. And as we twist, probably a big pressing out. Inhale and exhale. So the right hand's trying to pull the left knee in to twist yourself. Left hand, left leg presses against the right hand. And coming back to the center, sliding that left leg out. And let's take a little forward bend. Centering, a little bit of drawing into the center again. Coming up, and let's not say Andrasana. So we'll bend the left leg down, thigh is straight out from the hip joint, crossing the right foot over. You can leave the right foot there on its own side. So now everything is wrapping in, long through the top of the head. And we'll twist right. Inhale lots of space and exhale. And so now there's a little resistance of that right leg pressing into the left hand, but we're letting that left hand win, as it were, a little bit more, drawing that right inner thigh closer into your belly. Coming back to the center, let's switch sides. Right leg down, left leg crosses over. Take a breath or two arriving here, standing on those sitting bones, and then we will twist to the left. Inhale and exhale, and then feeling that interaction with the right hand and the left leg. So the left leg is pressing a little out into the right hand, making a little resistance, but the right is kind of winning on its pull in, flattening the belly into the left inner thigh. And back to the center. Disentangle the legs. We'll come up into our forward bend. Might be somewhere in the middle of the mat. That's fine. It doesn't matter. Just expand up into the forward bend. And then we'll expand out to downward facing dog, hands forward, feet back as needed. And through a vinyasa. And downward facing dog. Looking between the hands to jump or step forward. Into the concave back, halfway up, folding over. And let's chair pose Katasana. Bend the knees, hinging back in the hips, reaching long and forward through the sides of the body. If it's too much of a strain with the arms up by the ears, it's actually a lot of work. You put the arms parallel to the floor. It's better to choose a less challenging position than to have everything sort of collapsing. All right, here we are, a couple more breaths. And pressing into the floor, coming up, flattening out the front of the body, continuing into the front body yawn. And all the way around to Namaste. And then let's ripple our way into Katasana. Big inhale up into that front body yawn. And reaching around with the arms, bend the knees, big arch in the back, arms come forward, scoop your tailbone under a little, and then lengthening out into Utkatasana. Let's twist to the right. Wide arms, fingertip to fingertip. And bringing that right hand around to meet the left, Namaste. And Namaste into the center. And let's spring up again into the front body yawn. And ripple back to Utkatasana. And then twisting to the left. And bringing the left hand around to Namaste. back to the center, reaching the arms forward, pull the sitting bones back a little more. And then releasing over. Oh, what a relief. Concave back, folding over. And let's make our way back to downward facing dog. And then forward to the plank. Long and flat against the ceiling. Pulling the belly and ribs up. If in doubt, better to be arched up like I am now than to be sagging down. Couple more breaths here in the plank. So we're going to be making our way down to the floor on our belly if you need to get there soon. And then we'll lower to the floor. So I'm going to do kneeling Chaturanga. You could knee, chest, chin. You could full Chaturanga. You could pull back to child's pose and come forward. And then we're in the cobra position, taking that small cobra up. Maybe it's not so small, sort of depends. Squeeze the arms in, pull the elbows back, and lengthening down. And we'll reach through the toes and bend the knees. Tailbone into the floor. We're going to go back and forth like a slow motion rock here. So as those legs straighten out, the upper body starts to lift. The elbows are being pulled back with the feet as you come up. And then the legs will start to lift a little and the knees bend as you come down. And let's do that 3 more times. Inhale and exhale, rocking forward and up. Inhale and exhale, rocking back and up. And then finish with whatever part is your favorite half or maybe least favorite. And letting that go. Couple deep breaths, forehead on the hands. And we'll make our way back up to downward facing dog with as many cat and cow ripple sorts of things on the way as you need. And you can also put in another through the vinyasa here if you want it. Let's see. I guess I'll stay the way I am. All right, downward facing dog. Taking a moment, really feeling this downward facing dog. And then let's reach long through the right heel, lifting the right leg up. Dog at the high fire hydrant. Through to the lunge, and we'll come up into warrior number 1. Rounding that left heel down and coming up. And then we'll take a circle all the way around with the arms and back up overhead. And reaching the arms wide, we'll go to the eagle pose, crossing the right arm under. And reaching forward either along that right thigh, or maybe you can sink a little down inside the right thigh. You can always release the hands to the floor. And then we will release the hands to the floor, pivot that left heel back up. We'll pick the right leg up into the hover plank. And then swoop it up to three-legged dog. We're going to step forward again, but step that right foot at the right hand or wrist, at the outer edge of the mat. And then take a little step to the left with our left foot as we turn the heel in. So we've got our left toes almost to the left edge of the mat, the outer edge of the right foot almost to the right edge of the mat as we straighten up that right leg. You can also adjust the distance between the feet front and back, moving your right foot forward or back. And here we are, that wide stance from last week. And let's lengthen out the spine. So the left hand is going to be kind of right lined up a little bit on the left side by the left leg as we twist right in and extend it open, Parvrita Trikonasana. And reaching that arm down, let's step forward. The left foot goes to the center and bring the right foot next to it. So here we are, right together or parallel or hip distance. And then lengthen through the top of the head, and we're going to twist to the right again here with our legs right underneath ourselves. If you want to make it more challenging, you walk your left hand more and more toward the right. You can also hold on to the outer right shin. And then bringing that right arm down, we'll make our way to downward facing dog. You can vinyasa or not. And then we will go into child's pose. You can get there sooner rather than later if you like. And in that child's pose, slowing the breath down. Inhale and exhale, try not to exit and disassociate. Just breathing deeply and easily. You don't want to miss any moment of this easefulness. All right, and then we will take all of that around on the left side. Downward facing dog. You could put in another vinyasa here or not. And then we're going to lift the left leg up. Now I can't remember if we dogged at the high fire hydrant or not on the right side, but let's do it, or not if you remember. And through to the lunge. Warrior number one. Grounding that right foot down. And then breathing the arms around all the way back up overhead. Reach to the side, eagle pose, arms, left arm under. And then we'll come forward over that left thigh, or maybe shifting a little inside. And you can always bring the hands to the floor. And then we will bring the hands to the floor. Pivot your right heel up, hover, plank, picking up the left thigh. Swooping back up to three-legged dog. And then as we step forward, stepping behind your left wrist with that left hand. And then scoot the right foot a little bit more to the right as you turn the right heel down and straighten the left leg. And then adjusting the front to back distance as needed here. And so trying to find that center line. Try not to let it move over to the right, but it's still there with each foot about 2, 3 inches, 3 or 4 centimeters from the center line. And then the right hand goes in front of where the right leg is, a little bit over to the right, as we twist to the left, bringing the left arm up wide, Parvrita Trikonasana. And then bring that left hand down. And we step forward, step the right foot to its usual spot, bring the left foot in. So we're back in our Uttanasana. Squeeze those inner thighs toward each other, or squeeze an imaginary block if you've got hip distance. And then we'll lengthen out and twisting to the left with everything drawn into the center. When you make it more challenging, you walk the right hand more to the left. So instead of opening the twist, drawing it in more toward the center and even a little across, you can also put the right hand on the outer left shin. One more deep breath here. And releasing that arm. Ah, and then bending the knees some more, and sitting down on the floor in Baddha Konasana. Feet together, knees out to the side. Holding on to the shins or ankles long through the top of the head. Ah, and we will come forward. And so it's also possible that though I'm talking about that when we draw things tight into the center or cross our sides over each other, in general, it's more challenging than widening things out. Your experience could be different, or it could be that the widen out may be less challenging, as it were, but you still like the squeeze in, cross over feeling better. That would be the case with me. It's harder, but I actually like that feeling better rather than more open. Anyway, here we are. Plus, we don't always have to have a preference, keeping that in mind. Maybe instead of seeing it as I like this, I don't like that, just removing that judgment about it, the like and dislike, and saying, well, it feels this certain way to my body and myself here, it feels this other certain way over there. But let's just breathe. Enough thinking for a moment. Warming up, and then we're going to come down to the floor and Supta Konasana. Really feeling that pelvis nice and wide across the floor. And our thighs pouring out. And then be a little bit more active for a moment. Really press the feet into each other, especially the outer edge of the feet. You'll probably feel that gluteus maximus tighten a little bit. Way down here near the sitting bones, into that piriformis, into the deep hip rotators in your hip joints. And the gluteus maximus contracts over those smaller muscles to hold and steady them. And then bringing those legs in, and let's make our way back up to sitting. So we're going to stand up and do the tree pose. If you really don't want to stand up and do the tree pose, do Janushirasana, just like essentially the sitting down tree pose. That will be fine. All right. For those trees that are coming up, rolling up onto the feet, expanding into the forward bend, and then making your way up to standing. And arms down all the way around to namaste. And then considering, do you want to stand and do the challenge of balancing here without any assistance, or you feel like being steady and calm, and maybe putting your hand on the wall, desk, or chair. All right, and then we'll bring that right leg. And wherever we are, even for Janushirasana on the floor, there's that nice wide, broad sacrum across the back. And that right outer knee pressing out as much as it can without twisting you. And breathing here. Or if you're on the floor, of course, coming forward. And then we'll finish here to go to the other side, bringing that right foot down. Take a moment, really arriving in that Tadasana, feeling the little shift and adjustment, weight back onto 2 feet. And then we'll do the other side. Bringing that left leg up. And feeling that wide, flat sacrum, so I'm pressing out with the outer left thigh, but not so much that it makes me twist. One challenge here is we don't have like the obvious resistance of holding with the hand or having our sitting bones anchored on the floor. And then here we are breathing, trying to find samasthiti, steadiness. And then we'll bring the left foot down to Tadasana. Really be here, arriving on those 2 feet. And then we will all make our way down to the floor. rolling down. And then take a few moments just letting yourself melt into the floor. I'm considering, is there anything else you want to do, need to do? I'm going to do Konasana in the air. So that's the straddle pose in the air. So we come up into the floating body Konasana, but you could be doing what you would like, those who would like a suggestion. And then extending out through those heels any amount, maybe into just a wide, happy baby. Or maybe those legs get a nice big yawn in the back of the knees. Those inner thighs and the inner groin get a nice big yawn. And then wherever you are, see if you can get halfway to Shavasana, softening the face and the jaw. Softening the eyes. If it's safe to do so, maybe closing the eyes already. And finishing up with whatever you're doing. Coming into Shavasana with the rest of your body, whatever parts haven't gotten there yet. Inhale and exhale. Every breath, letting go a little more. You're feeling that wonderful weight of the body into the floor. And the strength of the earth coming up underneath and holding you, supporting you. And then breathing back into your body, into this room. Moving the fingers and toes, getting circulation going. Stretching the arms up overhead. Bending the knees. And making your way up to sitting. Taking your time. Sitting in any comfortable position with that long and spacious. Taking a few more moments, sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming. Stop.